It started right in the middle of it. And I was
we do it live, people. This is what happens. This happens when you do it live.
Wyoming.
No, Wyoming. This is not a country. That's all right. I'm going to take care of it.
For a long time, Hollywood could only imply homosexuality on screen. Although the 1920s was a bit looser, the Hays Code in 1934 ensured that gay characters and relationships were never explicitly referenced. Movies like Alfred Hitchcock's Rope and All About Eve sought to imply the existence of gay characters, but it wasn't until the 1960s where the code broke down and mainstream Hollywood movies could start grappling openly with homosexuality. The legendary epic, Lawrence of Arabia, was able to lightly imply a relationship between two men in 1962.
This is my well.
I have drunk from it.
You are welcome.
He was my friend.
That?
Yes, that.
Peter O'Toole's T.E. Lawrence has a relationship with his companion, Sharif Ali. The director, David Lean, told Peter O'Toole to play the character as a gay man. In 1964, Sidney Lumet directed The Pawnbroker, which openly allowed two Nazis to be gay. Also, Brock Peters plays an African-American pimp who is also clearly gay.
Oh, that makes you stupid, Professor. You're living right in it. Right in the middle of one big whorehouse, right in the bosom of the world. How do you say it? Filth? Horror? Right in the middle of it, and you don't know it. Or maybe something else. Maybe because you don't want to know. Are you that kind of man, Professor? The kind that doesn't want to know about things, feel about things? Are you that kind?
The film showed bleak images of a concentration camp, sexual assault, and was pushed to the Hays Code board in the hopes of breaking the board completely. It worked. A decade later, Sidney Lumet again brought gay characters to the screen with 1975's Dog Day Afternoon. That's the film we're going to be discussing tonight.
Hey, where's the map? You ready to go to Algeria?
Algeria? Yeah, sure.
We're all going to sunny climes. Sal, I can make it happen. I can make it happen. I made it happen so far, right? I can make it happen.
Dog Day Afternoon is a movie based on real events, and it dramatizes a 1972 robbery and hostage situation that occurred at a Chase Manhattan bank in Brooklyn. The robbery was written about in a Life magazine article called The Boys in the Bank. John, or Sonny, and Salvatore and their friend Robert held 7 Chase Manhattan bank employees hostage for 14 hours. The real John had pumped himself up by watching The Godfather before the robbery. Fresh off The Godfather 2, Al Pacino and John Cazale starred as Sonny and Sal in this dramatization. I mean fresh. It filmed 4 months after they finished filming The Godfather 2. Pacino helped cast the film. Many of the hostages and other characters are his former off-Broadway co-stars. Sonny manages to keep all the hostages alive, a grueling task as one has asthma and one has diabetes. The FBI then tricks him and kills Sal, a former convict, before arresting Sonny and dragging him to a 20-year sentence of which he'd only served 5. Sonny is also revealed to be gay and in a relationship with a gay man named Leon, who is now planning to get gender reassignment surgery to transition into a woman.
Well, I don't have a choice.
What do you mean you didn't have a choice?
Well, what am I supposed to do? I mean, they're standing all around me. There's 7,000 fucking cops all around me.
Who's on the phone now?
But don't lay it on me.
I'm not laying it on you, but you knew that was going on, right? What are you talking about laying it on you? You knew what was happening, right?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have
Who's
a
on
choice.
who's on the phone now?
The expense of the surgery is one reason Sonny decides to rob the bank, as well as his mountain of debt, 2 kids, and inability to find a job.
You know, you gotta get if you want a job, you gotta be a member of a union. See, and if you got no union card, you don't get a job.
What about non-union occupations?
What's wrong with this guy? What do you mean non-union? Like what? A bank teller? You know how much a bank teller makes a week? Not much. 115 to start, right?
Sonny is married Leon, but is also married to a woman, Angie, with whom he has children. The humanistic portrait that Sidney Lumet paints shows a complicated and duty-bound husband and father who is not merely a homosexual, but is a man with complicated obligations and no way to meet them. Sonny faces down homophobia, not just from hundreds of cops surrounding the bank or from the crowds outside, but from Sal, who is mortified to also be called gay.
Our coverage of the Brooklyn robbery, where 2 homosexuals are holding hostages for their demands of a helicopter, a jet,
Sonny.
and safe passage out.
Sonny, they said on the TV 2 homosexuals in the bank, right on TV. Did you hear what they said?
What difference does it make? It don't matter. They're gonna say anything they want. Let them say.
The crowd outside largely treats Sonny as a kind of Robin Hood figure, and the media spectacle is as much of a character, a stand-in for us, as anyone else. A year after Dog Day Afternoon, Sidney Lumet would direct Network. It's clear that Lumet and the writer Frank Pearson were grappling with a TV ecosystem that was telling us how to think and feel, hungry for the sensational. As the hostages settle into a strange giddy Stockholm syndrome, they also relish being characters on TV. That TV is also able to show the factional identity of gay Americans who are split on whether Sonny is a gay icon or a nightmare for them.
Phone calls have begun to arrive at our switchboard from various factions of the gay community. Some in full support of Sonny and his actions. Others totally condemning the present events and calling the marriage a farce and, quote, a case of sheer exhibitionism, end quote.
Lumet has gotten criticized for the gay characters in The Pawnbroker, but here, these are more fully realized, especially Pacino's performance, than most gay characters today. Dog Day Afternoon feels like a landmark, grappling not just with both homosexuality and transgender identity, but also the nature of homophobia in a sensationalist time. The most famous line of the film comes when Sonny goes outside and plays to the crowd, yelling, "Attica, Attica, Attica."
Get over there, will ya? He wants to kill me so bad he can taste it.
I was gonna kill anybody.
Attica! Attica! Will ya? Attica! 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 Attica!
Attica, a prison riot that took place a year before the robbery, had ended with 29 prisoners and 10 correctional officers dead after police opened fire on everybody. Symbolically, this was one of many events in the early 1970s that showed how fundamentally broken and uncaring this country had become. And, after ambushing our protagonists and killing one, it stands as yet another moment where law enforcement chose to just neutralize rather than compromise.
What? Kiss me. When I'm being fucked, I like to get kissed a lot.
Come on.
You're a city cop, right? Robbing a bank's a federal offense. They got me on kidnapping, armed robbery. They're gonna bury me, man. I don't want to talk to somebody who's trying to calm me. Get somebody in charge here.
I am in charge.
I don't want to talk to some flunky pig trying to calm me.
To be fair, I don't either.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, host of Britonic Reversal, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Jay Underworld, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Christina Oakes. You can find her streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/cosmopolitics, and she is organizing our Big Gay June Extravaganza. I, of course, am your amateur bank robbing host, Forrest Miller. Hooah! It's Big Gay June.
There it is. I never thought that would stick. Also, the part of Christina will be played by Ghidra from the Godzilla movies. So everybody welcome Ghidra to the panel.
Damn, she's Ghidra showed up 1 second earlier than Audrey did, who ran down just now trying to, play the part of Christina.
That's right. It's a coveted role, being the second to fourth banana on this show. I don't even know. It's anarchy.
I might have to.
Sometimes it's first. Who knows?
I might have to chase dog Christina out of here in a minute because she's literally rearing for attention, right?
Apparently, yeah. Well, exactly.
Ooh-ah!
We'll do great on Twitch. Is all I gotta say. Cool. So yeah, I didn't think Big Gay June was gonna stick. I really didn't.
Yeah, I don't think we ever thought of another.
I don't think anybody thought of something else.
And we had a whole week hanging out together to think of something else.
I know, and nobody could have anything better. So it's like
we were real focused on Caterwaul, making the helping out with the best possible noise rock experience.
Right.
So we were stuck in Big Gay June.
We had no ideas whatsoever for the gays.
We love them though. We love
the gays.
We love our gays.
So I think that this movie though, like it's kind of crazy that we're still tokenizing gay characters, and for this movie to kind of embody in 1975, like and of course, Sonny, who actually the name that he used is Little John Basso, the real guy, which apparently his name was Little John. The reason that he used it is because his dick is small, which is just like a great gem that's in the documentary where he tells his life story. He's like, I'm Little John, and they called me Little John because I got a tiny dick. I was like, all right, this movie only captures like 10% of how actually insane this guy is.
The fact that he decided to walk into the bank with pop art to hide the guns.
Yeah.
Which is
that's some Andy thinking.
Yeah.
he was like, I hit I was like, people would just think it's some kind of Andy Warhol painting, and they're not going to ask anything until the gun comes out. That's peak Andy thinking.
Yes, multiple Andys, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot to the real life characters, but I mean, there's a lot to the actual story of the movie as well. And I mean, I think you hit an important point. And one of the reasons I'm glad we're doing this is like the characters are well rounded, and it's weird that you still don't see that. Yeah, that is kind of like a character can have identity other than just, they're the gay one. Like, did they do anything else, or are they just gay? No, they're just gay. We haven't bothered to think of anything else for them to do.
And I guess all three of the guys in like the real story were gay. It's good that they only had kind of Sonny as the focus of that, I think, though.
Well, yeah, because then Sal's all like, "Hey, can you let them know that I'm not gay?" Yeah, because that's the most important thing. You're robbing a bank, but let's make sure that they know you're straight. Yeah, that's real important. And that's some real high school gym sort of logic.
Well, and
thank you.
There's so much in this movie that's like comedic timing, which you wouldn't expect from like a movie about bank robberies. Like from the very beginning, when things start to go wrong, the timing of it is really comedic. And the part that my favorite line I think in it is he starts getting lectured like, "Oh, you weren't prepared to rob this bank, like you didn't have any." And then the woman's like, "He's not prepared. He he didn't have a plan. He just rob a bank." It's like
she's like talking trash on him. Like it's really notable how different everything hits than modern heist movies. Because first of all, just like things like, okay, in a modern heist movie, somebody goes outside, they get shot immediately. It's not like, there's a standoff with the police and the police are embarrassed because they get sort of bested by this populist figure. No, it's literally a sniper takes you out immediately. And that just goes to show you how militarized police have become since the 70s. Not that there was any great shakes back then, but I
mean, even in this movie, the black guy gets like beat the crap beat out of him, even though he's having like an asthma attack before that.
Right, because they just don't know that he's, well, allegedly they don't know that he's like one of the hostages. But like it's notable that, I mean, it's seriously now what's the big thing, right? Like if somebody like goes outside a bank robbery, they get shot immediately, and like unless they're immediately identified as a hostage. Like, and the fact that they show that there are snipers, but it's sort of like, oh no, this will be an extreme event where somebody would have to give an order to do that rather than just like go do it immediately. And
that's the fixation with Attica as well. Like Attica,
exactly. Which I don't know about you guys. I saw this like a long time ago. I was like. What Attica? What is that? And then I had to like look it up what it was because I thought it was like a cool thing to yell. I'm like, oh, that's a cool thing to yell. And I'm like, oh no, it was actually like a whole thing and a horrible thing.
I was like going to concerts and being like, Attica.
That's my favorite band, Attica, right?
Yeah. I love their first record.
I knew about Attica.
Like Freebird at a show.
Because when Howard Zinn wrote A People's History of the United States, which I didn't get around to reading until like a couple years ago. But one chapter of that book is about like prisoners' rights.
It's about prisoners' rights. And that's actually how I found out about it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow, that's literally horrifying. Okay.
I mean,
but just real quick, Andy, just because like in America in the school system, history never gets beyond founding father worship. So of course you would never teach anything modern because that potentially could be controversial.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andy.
But the one thing is like as a kid, if you remember correctly, Conan, like we're about the same age. People still like yelled Attica for just no reason.
Oh yeah, because it's a rad thing to yell. Yeah,
and it was a thing. Like y'all you youngsters but that was like for a long time that was
thunk, 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 thunk. I mean, it's basically Paperback Writer with a cowbell, but I like that song.
But it feels like such a society-wide traumatic moment that like the crowds cheer. He's yelling about Attica, like,
and the crowd's on the side of the robber, right? Of like, get these dumb pigs, like and like how often is that shown? Like it happens in life, but like you never see it depicted in a film because especially these days, and there's a lot of things that get into the reasons, rationale for access to military resources, so on. Things like how The Shield, like that show The Shield, which is incredible, but they had to go to like extraordinary lengths to basically differentiate it from the actual unit that did those things that was part of LAPD, and they went to like these extreme levels to like basically differentiate it. Even then, like still were like trying to shut them down at every given moment in time. Like you just can't do it. So what they do is they end up, it ends up being like propaganda, as some people like to call it. But nothing else, it just ends up being a sin of omission because people aren't naturally on the police's side. Come on, man. Really? You think so? Never. Not in any city I've ever seen.
So, last year, I guess, they did Oscar Sundays and they did Dog Day Afternoon, where it was Larry Karezowicz, I don't know how to say it, and Al Pacino. And Al Pacino was like telling the story of everything that happened on Dog Day Afternoon. And I found this clip where he's talking about John Cazale, like the like his friendship with him and the.
Is it Cazale or Cazale? And also, I thought it was Lumet. I've been saying that wrong my entire life.
Yeah, it's Lumet. I got that wrong, and I think it's Cazale. But so this is John Cazale, like he's talking about his friendship with him and his inevitable demise, which is eerie in this movie that 2 years later or 3 years later he'd be dead of cancer, and then in this movie has the whole scene where he's saying he doesn't smoke because he doesn't want lung cancer.
He doesn't want the cancer. Yeah. That's and it's funny because like of the movies he was in, he's like the most Oscar nominated dude ever, because they all are like complete bangers, like every single one of them. Like Conversation, Godfather 1 and 2, Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah.
So a big part about the story of this movie is that the robbery happened at the same time that The Godfather was in theaters, and as they're getting ready to go to the different places for the robberies, like because they tried a bunch of places and failed pretty much, and nobody apparently stopped them, but they kept trying places. And one of the things they did when they were trying to find a Chase Manhattan bank to rob is that they watched The Godfather, and
yeah, that's right. I heard about
the note that he gave to the teller at like one of the banks was, I've got an offer like you can't refuse. Like
it was like right after The Godfather opened too. Like
yeah. But awesome. I guess right after The Godfather opened, but they do enough about it to be like, let's watch this so we could get jazzed up to go rob this bank.
Yeah.
And the guy telling the story, because I watched The Dog, which is his like documentary about him that it's like an hour of him
What's that? The John Cazale documentary. What's that called? I've been meaning to watch that. I haven't seen.
Oh,
it.
there's I don't remember what that one's called, but I did see that. That's
the documentary on the guy, the actual guy.
Yeah, the actual guy.
Cool.
No, I do know there's a John Cazale documentary.
That's called I Knew It Was You, and that it's supposed to be great. But I always forget about it until I look at who's got the most Oscar wins for their career? Oh yeah, or most Oscar nominations, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Don't be a dick.
Yeah. So this is
I'm so glad you all came. Yes. Now, I want to ask you a couple questions about another person in the film. Yes, John Cazale. Oh God.
I did get it right the first time.
He was a 17-year-old or something. They were looking for a 19-year-old, 17 to 19-year-old guy to play the part to go in the bank with me. And Charlie mentioned John Cazale to me. What about John Cazale? I said, well, I think he's a little too old for that part. I was Sidney wants a young person. She says, give him a shot. I think he can do it. That was my mentor, Charlie Lawton. And so I said, sure. So I told Sidney, and then they read him, and look what you get. He's fantastic.
I've always heard that Cazale is an actor who likes to ask a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah, yes. Oh, you remember the thing with the homosexual?
John Cazale.
I remember that one. They said, because I worked with John. John and I did theater. We've been in the Two Godfathers together. And we grew up. I worked with him at Standard Oil when I was 19 as a messenger. We were both messengers at Rockefeller Center. And he was a guy, everybody loved this guy. He was just a good talker, very smart, very, he understood politics and stuff. And I loved the guy. And then I made a debut with him in a play called The Indian Wants the Bronx, which made my career in New York and his. And then I just worked with him. I just worked with him all the time. I would always want to work with him. He started saying, "Oh, come on, Al, we've done enough together." Because he was so interesting to work with. So just such a great guy. I loved him. And then he came to me one time. He said, "Hey, I'm doing, I forget the name of it, great Shakespeare play in the park. I don't remember, it was with Meryl Streep. So he comes to me and said, I've fallen in love. I said, yeah? He said, yeah, I've fallen in love with this girl, this actress. Nobody knew who she was. I said, oh, really? I thought, wow. And then he said, she's such a great actress. So great. I said, really? Okay. I said, see love, what it does. It makes a picture. And then because Meryl Streep, I said, hey, he was right. Oh my. And so, remember that.
I had heard that he would ask Lumet so many questions.
Oh God, I get into stories and I go, yeah, so he's asking Lumet.
We're here for the tangent. We want the tangent.
So Sidney said, because this is the way Johnny used to work. I mean, Johnny taught me so much. Right? But he say, why do I say homosexual? I'm not homosexual. And Sidney says, and then he starts. And once John starts asking questions, they go on. And I'm there on the set. I'm thinking, okay, time to do other things for myself. I go outside, I take a walk around the corner. I'm fine. I come back, they're still arguing and questioning each other until finally Sidney is red in the face. And he says to John, you do it because I tell you to do it. And John said, oh, okay, why don't you say that in the first place? It was great. Great.
Now you wanted to be an actor your whole life, correct? Your mother used to take you to the movies and
yes, of course. Yes, always. That's how it started. There was no television when I was born. I think there was radio, I guess. Yeah.
John Cazale.
According to the internet.
All right.
Oh, I guess they got it wrong.
I mean, it makes sense to me as long as he's actually Italian. Like, it would make more sense. I've heard it say both ways. I've heard Lumet and I've heard Lumet as well. And Lumet sounds like more like what a fancy director would sound like. But
no, it's Lumet. I always assumed it was Sidney Lumet because I was like, oh, like he's a director. It's got to be. But no,
Sidney Lumet.
The gold standard is gold Lumet.
Exactly. I mean, you know, puts out nothing but gold movies. You know, like, geez, Network's one of my favorites of all time. 12 Angry Men's like astounding. Like, I mean, he's got an incredible track record.
Yeah, I just realized I watched his final film, and it was not. It is not in this category, but like the bones of the movie, like the performances and the direction and all of that stuff was just still fantastic, even though the script was eh.
Right.
I watched The Pawnbroker last night, which is the first.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's dark. It's kind of like very depressing. It's not. It's definitely a lot different than this movie. It's definitely a lot different than his later stuff.
Yeah, that's like 64, right? He did that in Failsafe same year. I've seen Failsafe. Failsafe's really good.
It's the movie that smashed the Hays Code pretty much on purpose.
Yeah,
right? His friends encouraged him because of Lawrence of Arabia already having gay characters. They were like, well, let's we can probably finally disintegrate the Hays Code if you get enough. They had a bunch of people that wanted to do that on the Hays Code board that were like other directors, and they're like, listen, just have some pretty depraved shit in there, and we'll try to get it through. And if you get it through, then the Hays Code doesn't really work anymore, and you kind of just smash the code. So there's gay characters. There's one of the the villain is like a black pimp, and he's very clearly a black pimp with a whorehouse and he also has like a young white boy that he's clearly sleeping with, and so.
Yeah, it's all implied. I just looked it up for the hell of it. 12 Angry Men, which is in my top 50, if not top 20 movies. It's his first film.
Yeah,
that's freaking nuts. I know it was based on a teleplay, but holy crap, that's some wild stuff. I mean, he's a talented director. Andy, is the last one the one you saw before The Devil Knows You're Dead? Is that?
Yeah.
I've seen that. It was good.
It has two Aunt Mays in it. If you're into that.
It's that on the Aunt May scale?
It's got two of them. So
7 Days in Aunt May.
Yeah, exactly.
Before The Devil, it's a good movie.
I saw it and I didn't realize that it was him, and I liked it. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And then I didn't really think that much about it. I was like, wait, that was his last film?
That was his last film.
Yeah, I don't know with 12 Angry Men if this is your experience with it too, but that's one of those movies you watch in high school.
Yeah.
Or college or something where it's you're learning about literature or whatever, and they're like, hey, let's throw on 12 Angry Men. That's how. Well,
I how to do a lot with a little, because it all basically happens in a room, right? But the performances are so amazing, and the small things about how the shot is set up and how it changes over time and causes tension for the audience. I mean, it's incredibly impressive, especially for a young man doing that, especially.
And there's a lot of
younger man. I don't know how young he was at the time. Well, he seems like a dude that was born old, frankly.
The symbolism, the symbolism of above frame shots, bird's eye shots versus you can make it look bigger, and then it's if you make the court bench look bigger, you're kind of plunged into this expressionistic picture of justice. And it's oh, all right, that's a good tip.
It's I wanted, and I know KT called Women Talking 12 Angry Women, and I wish it was that good. I did not feel that way about about Women Talking. I thought it was fine ultimately, but I did not find it that compelling, and I think that's a perfect classic example of how to do it in such a way that you can have something that could just be a stage play and have it be a compelling movie, but that didn't do it for me. And the only reason I bring that up isn't to trash that movie, because I do like Sarah Polley a lot. It's just to say that it's harder than it looks to do something like that.
Did you hear that they're having her do the Disney remake of Bambi or whatever now? I guess
Sarah Polley.
Yeah, it's not
all right.
Sure. Today during my kid went to the dentist, and the every TV at the dentist office was showing a different version of The Lion King, and the one
That's actually kind of rad.
Why does that remind me of like a that's like almost performance art? Like
yeah.
No, it gets better. It gets better. And in the operating room where my kid was getting like some fillings in, they had the live action one, which is just beige, like nothing but beige on screen.
Sure.
And the dentist had like actually a really good singing voice, and she was like singing the entire time. I just can't wait to be king, except for when Akuma Makata came on, and she was singing with that.
I feel like you were in a movie and you didn't realize it. What was happening? Because it sounds very cinematic.
The best part dentist, if not the king of lion?
True.
Like this isn't gonna hurt. You're not gonna feel this.
Well, you got the nitrous. You're good.
We've all seen the documentary Little Shop of Horrors, right?
Yes.
So there's a bunch of behind the scenes clips for this that I liked. That people.
Yeah, let's get back to Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah, which by the way, I did not remember that this was as long as it was, because it doesn't feel long. Unlike most modern movies where I'm feeling every minute like, oh my god.
Yeah, well, there's like the 2+ hour runtime or whatever. What I kind of find fascinating about it is that the last 50 minutes is like, it's them getting into the car. It's like going to the airport. Like all of that takes actually way longer than it feels.
But it's so tightly done, and like the tension's so great. Like you don't feel it. I mean, it just kind of flies along. And I'm not saying that aren't a couple parts of like, oh, this is kind of like on the slower side here. But like again, I was shocked. I remember this being like a 90-minute movie, and I've seen it. I think this is the third time I've seen it now. And like I was like, oh, this is over 2 hours. Crazy.
Yeah. Let me change it. It was the second picture I've done with him. Keeps you on your feet. Keeps you moving. Like we had to do buses on this, police cars. Inspected every one of them. Went through the lights, through the siren number, through the color. Like these here things, you had to measure exactly the way the New York City Police Department is. And he's rough. He keeps me moving.
Really working on his pictures are a pleasure, except for one thing, that you really can't rest with him. Next setup.
Fellas! Now, fellas, you gotta pay attention. I said guns down. Guns down. The guns have already gone.
Those are like two very different classic guys. Like the one guy's like, yeah, I was on the fucking set. And the other guy's like, I can't rest with him. I brought my boom in here and I'm setting it back up. And he's like, oh, it's me and Sidney. We go way back. It's the fucking New York cop car. And he's like,
yeah. And the weird thing is, it's like Fat George Clooney telling us the story.
It's like inside you are two wolves, right?
That's for everybody. Guns are down. I told everybody. We go again.
Mookie Munkachi, still photographer, works on his 7th film with Lumet.
And we really have fun on the picture.
What's the name again?
On the 12 Angry Men.
Yeah. Guns are down.
And
I told everybody. We go again.
Mookie Munkachi, still photographer, works on his 7th film with Lumet.
It's racist.
Really have fun on the picture. I worked with him on the very first one, the 12 Angry Men.
Guns are down, people. Pay attention.
He's real fast on a draw. There's no two ways about it. He's right there. 1, 2, 3. He sets up the scene for you, and it's a real pleasure to be with a guy that knows his stuff.
Crowd!
It's a real pleasure to be with the guy who does his stuff.
Channeling that energy into motion pictures, the director is a virtuoso at staging controlled situations like this. He did it with 12 Angry Men, the Anderson tapes, and Murder on the Orient Express. This film will be no exception. Lumet tells what it's like.
This one sort of developed its own sort of white heat, and finally, really, over the last 3 weeks, it was sort of pushing us more than us doing anything about it. It was telling us sort of it's a lovely state to be in.
Dog Day Afternoon. Lumet's new film is one of those stunning examples of the truth being so strange, it becomes super fiction.
When you see me disappear into the barbershop, or
It dramatizes a real and rather extraordinary bank robbery which took place in Brooklyn on a torrid August day in 1972.
we are set. You tell me when you're rolling, and I'll get out of the street. Cue them. Stand the action. Here they come.
The film also reunites the Serpico team of Sidney Lumet and actor Al Pacino.
What's he doing?
What do you get back over there?
What are you doing? Look at him. Get over there.
To stage a human dilemma of two hold-up men pushed into taking 11 people hostage and holding an army of police at bay, it helps to have a strong understanding between actor and director.
Pacino, he's in one of those rare talents. He's incapable of a fake moment, of anything false happening. You can't beat him into it because he doesn't exploit himself in any way. Just works completely honestly.
TV guys, they put their guns down. All right, when you got them back,
Al Pacino portrays a man driven to the very edge. His talent for being able to walk a fine line between explosive hysteria and controlled violence was a hallmark of his performances in Serpico, Scarecrow, and The Godfather. Lumet built his bank near the site of the actual robbery.
We built the bank inside of a warehouse. We found this enormous empty warehouse. The street was perfect, and I wanted the street for exteriors. It was so, again, naturalistically recreated by Chuck Bailey, the art director, that literally, the first 4 days, strangers would stop by and want to open an account.
Is that you and El Greeno, old birds? We're in phone communication, waiting on you.
Oh, stop being the Mookie Mugachi over here. I'm seriously fascinated by that.
What's wild? Yeah, I was looking at his IMDb page. He only goes by the name Mookie, M-U-K-Y.
It's incredible.
And I'm like,
a classic 12 Angry Men style guy. Like this one.
There's a New York Times article on him about how he's cinema's greatest photographer.
Wow. Okay.
You wouldn't expect it.
I had no idea.
Yeah, just Mookie.
You wouldn't expect it looking at him or
Mugachi.
hearing his name, Mookie Mukachi. But
Mookie Mugachi.
He may be cinematography's greatest still photographer.
I like that he chose to shoot it basically close to where the actual thing happened. That's pretty cool. I always kind of wonder for something like this where it's like, not like obviously these days everything's like CGI and sets anyway, but like, when you have to do practical effects for like literally everything, it was like, wow, that's actually, they shut down the block to do this. So it's like, where did they do this? Well, not that far from where it happened.
A little more carefully, it looks like in the fucking French Connection or something like that.
No, what do you mean? That's fine. Just go. Just drive. Just drive very fast.
You want what kind of job you have if you don't have a union card? You don't have a union card. You just gotta send the car right down the fucking freeway.
Throw that in there, yeah. It's I mean, it's incredible. I didn't know that it was based on a true story. First time I saw it, I was like young and like the internet was like, made of wood. It was like a wood burning internet. But like it's interesting to see the depiction of it. And I think this is one of Al Pacino's best roles of his entire career. And it's real early on for him too. And I'm including The Godfather, which obviously I think Godfather and Godfather 2 are amazing. But like, I love Heat. I think his performance here is better than it is in Heat. They're very different. Glenn Ross, love him in that. I think it's better than that. Like, this is one of his best roles. And one of the reasons why is because he's acting. He's actually acting instead of doing the thing where he's like the guy doing the stuff.
So this is
Great
article. This is actually kind of fascinating. I just noticed this. This is the actual article they based the movie on, right? Like the article.
He's great in Serpico too, but I think he's better in this.
So they found this article in Life magazine, this Poison the Bank thing about this robbery, and that's what like inspired them to write the script. And within it says it describes him as having the face of an Al Pacino or a Dustin Hoffman. Like literally, that's their.
Because The Godfather was already out at that point. It was a huge surprise hit. Yeah, that's amazing.
And I mean, he does. He looks like Al Pacino right there.
Yeah. And I can see it, especially like
the guy's got
young
the
baby
charisma,
face,
like,
face Al Pacino. Yeah.
It made sense.
Look at those prices on pickles, 49 cents.
Well, it's only a half. It's only a half sour.
It's a half sour pickle. Yeah.
But like, so this is like the opening.
Look at these bylines by P.F. Cluj. What a name.
A fouled up, hold up, move step by step.
Everyone's name sounds like an ethnic insult around this time for some reason.
Well, it's the 70s in New York City. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's coming to a head.
Look, don't be such a kludge. Yumogati.
Well, what's actually fascinating about this movie too is the time it came out, because in 1975, the networks and the FCC did the Family Hour, because there was actually because there was a lot of like gay content on TV that was like Maude and whatnot that portrayed gays very positively, and they specifically did that so there wouldn't be any gay content on TV. And so during this vacuum, this film kind of came out because that only lasted a year, and then I think the following year they dropped it, and like in 1970,
because the Phyllis Schlafly's group was like pushing for that kind of stuff, right? If I remember correctly, yeah.
And they got really worried about that, so they panicked and stopped that. And then, like I said, the following year after they dropped it, there's like a week solid of like really gay programming on network television.
Oh, just like this show.
It's the queer hour over there on the movie night.
Hey, they got a rainbow flag or the logo.
So
we woke
it's pretty hilarious that this. Yeah, we're doing pink capitalism over here.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of it.
No, so they're doing so this guy had joined the gay alliance or whatever, like he had joined that right after Stonewall, and he had been going to the village, and he had been married to the woman he's married to, like the real woman Carmen actually sounds and looks a lot like the theater friend that Al Pacino had like put into this movie. She's like this. She's like massive.
But I heard she got all upset about the depiction at the time. Like she was like really like bummed out that like that's how she was being depicted.
But. He left his we'll say loud wife and and went into the and he started.
Oh, my wife! She's so loud.
So he started going into the Andrew Woke Clay.
Exactly.
And my favorite thing is not only did he just join, he joined the welcome committee so he could be the first person to have sex with people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're gay. Let's.
Yeah, no, that's one of the little nuggets.
Oh wow, that's quite the angle. I never even thought about that.
It's like, damn, hey.
He's like, I got
first dibs, I guess. Like, yeah, welcome aboard.
So he meets like Eden / the Leon character in this movie.
Yeah.
He meets him at the time, but then she tells him that she wants to be a woman, and like she wants gender reassignment surgery.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he's really not into that idea at all, because he's like, I wanted a man with tits or something like that. Like the documentary is wild. The documentary, only 10% of his craziness makes it into Dog Day Afternoon. But so it's all around that same time, and it became this huge stunt that they pulled pretty much, where they wanted to see if they could get themselves married at this gay church. And because the city at the time was like, we're not going to marry anybody. If you try to marry people, we'll come after you. Fuck you. Like,
like basically they said you'd be disbarred and like prosecuted. Basically, like I think it was one of the things I read. Where
so this guy basically had a long history of gay activism at the center of this whole movement in the village, and that part of it, I think it's good that they don't kind of include that into this movie, and it seems like it's kind of an almost it's like an everyman character rather than this guy that's been a pretty fucking insane gay radical, like.
But I think it works better. It works better as a film that way. I think because Pacino is giving it like an incredible performance, but like you kind of don't have a frame of reference at first. Like it is genuinely jarring when you're like, oh, that's why he's robbing the bank. Oh Jesus, oh crazy.
Yeah.
Like that was like one of the first exposures I had to even like the idea of someone being transgendered, let alone there being like surgery for it, and let alone historically like how anybody would deal with that in the early 70s. And but I like that it's, I mean, first of all, it's logical. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. You need money to do that, and then it's presented as it's just the thing. It's not the defining thing of the character. It's just a part of it's a motivating catalyst for the character, and I think that's important.
And the Chris Sarandon, like the voice he uses and everything, that like very kind of high pitch, like that's the actual, like he sounds exactly like
the guy,
the actual, you know.
But I think it would have diluted the impact if he'd come out being like, "Oh, this guy's a big activist in gay rights culture and this and that, etc." Like that would be like if someone made it now, where they feel like you have to give someone's life story before you ever see them on screen. Where it's like, I don't care about any of that.
And not only that, like no, not just Al Pacino's character, but the character of Sal is like such a great cipher because like everybody is kind of like saying who Sal is throughout the film,
right?
And like Sal just seems like this kind of like absolute cinnamon bun of a human being.
Yeah, just standing around, whatever.
Thinking Wyoming's a country.
Yeah, exactly. The most defining characteristic of thinks Wyoming is a country. So he's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
I'm with the guy that thinks Wyoming's a country. You think you got problems?
Yeah, but I love that that's a reference because it is something where you're like, what? Wyoming? like
what country? Wyoming. Yes. but that's part of the interesting thing about that character because everybody else is painting him like this big bad villain. And
he kills people. He's crazy. He's nutty.
He's just like I don't smoke because I don't want to get the cancer. And then they're laughing.
Which again, cruelly ironic considering how he died, of course. But he seems to be a pretty like caring individual. I don't know if it's the correct term, but like definitely not somebody who would have central casting to rob a bank.
Yeah, well, but the beauty of it is that they left it so open that you can interpret. You can see how the police could also interpret misgivings of his character, but also like how the that one woman like right before he gets shot, hands him that diamond necklace and just like, I hope this helps you out.
Yeah.
In her little Mr. J voice.
You also see it as kind of a dynamic of like good cop, bad cop, and then also good criminal, bad criminal, which is kind of fascinating because they have the one guy that's the fucking guy that tried to steal Kermit's legs, in the Muppet movie.
That was the same dude. You're right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I was like, why do I hate this guy so much? Like, there's something just inherent in me that and I was like, oh shit, he tried to steal fucking Kermit's legs.
It's a Frog Legs restaurant guy. That guy sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. He also put on like a lot of weight after this movie too, because he was, he was not thin in this movie, but like, you could think he could run up a flight of stairs.
He has a very like J. Edgar Hoover face. That's what I'd call it. Like he has that.
Yeah.
But
well, I like that. While we're still talking about John Cazale, real quick, from my understanding, like it was written to be like a smart ass kid, like a little streetwise kind of like like wisecracker, and like there's like kind of just the sadness almost to like Sal, which I think like it like wants you to like you want to know more about this dude. Like, what's this dude's whole deal? Of the fact that he doesn't want to be called gay on the news.
Well, like there's there's a part of it. Well, I mean, which also makes sense if he's gonna go back to prison. You don't want those are those two gay guys from the news. Like there's this part of it where he uses his friend for insurance, which makes sense, kind of, right? Like he's the one that's inside. And he's like, yeah, like you have to talk that guy up on the phone and be like, that guy's crazy. He like I don't control him. Like he might just start popping hostages if I don't come back in 5 minutes.
Right, building him up like he's some maniac, right? But it's great because he's the guy that's not there. So like, how do they know?
But no. He's the one that comes out and he's like, look, I don't know what my friend's going to do. But then it makes it kind of insanely tragic that, of course, they take that at face value. Like, that guy really is like that. And they're like, oh, that's the guy we have to deal with. So, like, get the other guy to calm down. And he kind of said, like, and obviously he doesn't see that he's doing that throughout it. But, like, at least until the guy's like, well, we'll deal with your friend. But they almost treat it like he's being held hostage by Sal.
Apparently, by the way, the Wyoming line was an ad lib, and like Sidney Lumet like almost ruined the take because he laughed so hard when it happened, which I would too, to be fair.
But they made it also seem like the whole "I'm not a homosexual" thing was kind of an ad lib too.
Yeah.
In that clip, where he's like, why am I? I'm not gay. Why are they saying I'm gay? And it's like.
Well, and that's one of the things I dig so much about it, like the total unpredictability of the plot, and like there's just no cliches at all, anywhere to be found in here. That's one of the things that makes it a great film.
He's also the Onion article. Why all these homosexuals keep sucking my dick?
That's right. I forgot about that one.
The other thing that's funny is the real guy, the real Sal. His name was Sal, but you know what his name was?
What?
Sal Natural. That's what the name that he went by.
God damn it! Wow. Okay.
And the three of them were gay. So, like,
Yeah.
you know,
The whole story about them wanting to bang the
Sal
third
Natural
guy.
and Mookie Mugachi are going to having a little hangout.
they were all trying to bang the third guy. Like the
Yeah,
kid that
yeah.
was-
The third guy, and the guy's like, I don't want to have sex with Sal.
Yeah.
It sounds like, but you had sex with John.
He's like, I didn't want to have sex with John either. And he's like, you son of a bitch, get out of here.
Yeah.
That-
Next thing you know, it's a Greg Araki movie. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
The documentary The Dog is literally like this guy's life story is fucking insane. Like he
Yeah.
goes from a Goldwater Vietnam vet, like a Goldwater, like he went to the Republican convention and like was one of the people that nominated Goldwater at the Republican convention, and then he's
Wow.
like, oh well, now I want to be a liberal McCarthy guy, and he gets his
Yeah.
dick sucked in the Vietnam War or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
That story about his first homosexual experience is amazing.
Yeah, he like wakes up and his dick's really sucked. He's like, that feels great, keep doing it. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
To whatever young man did that, we thank you for your service.
My favorite part though is he's like, there's this country bumpkin named Wilbur.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I was having this great dream that I was getting my dick sucked, and I woke up and I was getting my dick sucked, and I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? He's like, does it feel good? He's like, yeah, keep on going.
Well, this movie is his narrative. It's his narrative and his mom, who, you know, he went back and he moved back in with his mom after jail and everything. And it's
Yeah,
2
bringing
hours
his
of
prison boyfriend with him.
yeah. He brought his prison. He had
Yeah, like you do. You know.
And they did a bunch of promotional stuff for like Dog Day Afternoon, and it was like his original wife that's like, I'm his wife, and then it's like like the Eden character, she's like, I'm his wife, and then the guy's
Yeah.
like, and I'm his wife.
yeah, exactly. It's a Monty Python skit suddenly, right? I mean, it's
just an insane movie. It's free on I think it's Tubi. It's free.
Yeah,
you can
Tubi.
watch it. Yeah.
I think also but the thing is, like, this is a really strong cast. Like, even like another thing I was thinking about with like heist movies and things like that is like the power dynamic is so different, like with the hostages, right? Because I mean, you have like I forget the character's name, but like the head woman, right? Who's sort of just like, well, whatever, it's good for, like what am I doing? It's a no thing. And then it's like giving advice and stuff. And then like there's that line of oh, you're out here, why don't you stay out here, just like just be released. It's like, I'm not going without my girls.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, cool. So that tells you a lot what you need to know about that character, whose name I'm completely forgetting right now. But she's rad.
She's the mouth.
The mouth. She's the mouth. Yeah, exactly. That's right.
And like the thing is that the cast is so stacked that like you have Lance
Sylvia.
Hendrickson.
Sylvia is the proper name, but yeah, the mouth.
But yeah, the cast is so stacked. You have Lance Hendrickson and Carol Kane, who are both fantastic.
Yeah, Carol
actors.
Kane.
Yeah.
And they're
Only in it for
barely,
those two
they barely
scenes,
do anything in this movie.
It's like a small, it's a small thing, but it's like it all adds to the tapestry. It's such a rich world.
Yes.
It's also like the one time I've seen Carol Kane play the straight woman, kind of. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's like the one time that she's like,
she's
not
not
like
being weird.
Yeah.
For like 3 seconds. I mean, she's so great at it. Why would
Still
she?
looking forward to her on Star Trek being weird.
But yeah, I like also there's like kind of the camaraderie that happens with the hostages and them, because he's also like a former bank teller, and you kind of you find that out really early on, through their conversations. It's like, oh, you know a lot about this. Did you work in a bank? And then he's like, how much do bank tellers make? Like $110 a week or something. Like, the whole scene where he's rousing them, like you realize there's a camaraderie of like, this is just a bank teller that's snapped, and the real guy too. He had met his wife being a bank teller, and he was a bank teller that snapped and was like, I could rob a bank. So you kind of it kind of processes, it almost clicks, because there's like this populist route, like
and the tellers are like, actually, now that you mention, we don't make that much money. Like it's like they're on their side, like, and that works so well, because it's, again, I think a lot of movies try to do this populist bent where, like, oh, well, they're on the side of the robber, and then it's not earned. You're just like, all right, so okay, people are just doing something because the plot needs them to. But here it's totally earned all around. Yes. Like the pizza guy is like, what are you doing? Like, now you're giving me a tip. Do you want to take these pizzas first or not? You know, like okay, you're giving me money. Sure. That's fine. Right on. This is wild. You know,
well, there's the element of kind of being in the TV age where everything's a news event. And I think that, you know, Sidney Lumet would go on a year later after this movie was released, obviously, to make Network. And it's
one of the best of all time.
Yeah. A subject that's on his mind throughout this, right? Like the characters thinking of themselves as characters on TV, like wanting to be these small time celebrities, at least for their like if I'm going to be, you know, a hostage, I might as well also, you know, get my little celebrity thing out of it. Of course, it gets really dark. Like later on when you actually watch like the documentary of it or something, where he comes out of a prison and he's still wearing his because he becomes like the dog, like that's his his thing because of the movie Dog Day Afternoon.
Right,
so it's,
sure.
It's very meta, like it's in real life. He's kind of this character and he walks around and he tries to apply to Chase Manhattan Bank and he's like as security. After he gets out of prison, he's like, "Well, who's better to be the prison than someone?"
Yeah, exactly. It's that old Bon mot. Yeah,
and he ends up getting kicked out of like the Chase Manhattan Bank in Brooklyn because they're like, "Well, he's trying to make money off of his robbery."
Yeah.
But then you know, there's questions that get raised, like you know, like Warner Brothers gets to make money off this movie, right? Like they get to make hundreds of dollars, but nobody holds them to account. But he's still kind of trying to do like this weird populist bit where he's like, "Can't the little guy get some money out of this too?" Like. You know, for if Warner Brothers is going to,
well, not only is he going to be a guard, he's going to be like, "Hey, you want to meet the guy from Dog Day Afternoon?" Right here.
And he's doing that in front of the bank with like this camera crew. He's still getting people to sign.
And he actually found somebody who was there that day.
Yeah, I mean, and also, look, think about where we're at now. Like, I'm trying to think, like, what was the Netflix show that the chick from Ozark was playing, that grifter, that famous grifter, the socialite. But you know what I'm talking about? Everybody was like freaking. I'm talking about Julia Garner. I just can't remember the. You guys remember what I'm talking about?
The only shows on Netflix I ever watched was the Marvel shows.
Okay, well, bully for you. No, like it's. I mean, it was a big deal for a while. But she was playing Anna, Inventing Anna is what it was, which is the Anna Delvey doc. But like that was a real life, like fraudster, like high level fraudster and like heiress and stuff. But like, you know, whatever. She's allowed to run around and like. I mean, I think she was even on like. Cole James Cash's show, if I remember correctly. That like, he
was on there and hung out with them, like right around the time of her trial.
Yeah, and it's like that's. I guess what I'm saying is like that kind of thing is just like that's natural now. Like it's like of course you could unless it's like you know murder maybe, I don't know, but for like money crimes that seems to be like just part of the ecosystem.
OJ put out that book if I get it.
She scammed like exclusively like multimillionaires pretty much. So like everyone's like, well, I don't give a fuck about that.
Victimless crime.
Exactly.
a much darker example is, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse turning himself into a celeb for the right or something and getting to go on all these shows because he's a fucking murderer. And it's like there's a lot less I think violence.
What Sidney Lumet gets into big time with a great script from Patty Chayefsky in Network, everybody.
But there's a lot less. Nobody was really hurt by this, right? Like I think people are traumatized by this.
But I could see at that time it being something where they were like, no, you know, no way. Whereas now it would just be like, well, of course, yeah, like we'll do it just for like the you know the tweets, you know, we'll do it just for
I think
event.
At this time though there was a lot there was enough of the of course we're going to do this for, you know, publicity, enough of that people are like, wait, what the fuck is this society like evolving into? So it was kind of like the seed of that moment where it's like at some point, like, you know, there's a lot of like big you know, like Wall Street criminals, they still get, you know, rehabilitated every day. Like why not rehabilitate this fucking gay guy from you know, that tried to rob a bank unsuccessly?
Well, it's kind of wild.
Like altruistic reasons too. Like the reasons is what makes it you know, a fascinating story. You know, like that's the hook right there. You know, because again, it's like who's actually the bad guy here.
Well, and it's like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of amazing that the real Sonny and Sal watched The Godfather. before doing the actual crime. And then, was it 3 years later? Then like Al Pacino and John Cazale are like playing versions of themselves. That's nuts. I mean, that's
to the point where like the letter that he gave to like the bank teller literally was like, "I'm making you an offer you can't refuse."
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
love it.
Also, I love the fact too that they never got the money for the surgery. However, the movie funded the surgery for Eden.
And she finally she was like, he claims, I don't actually believe this because she's dead now, so he can say whatever he wants. He claims that he didn't want the movie to get made, and he's like, I don't want them to make a movie about me. I don't believe that. I think that guy 100% wanted them to make a movie about him.
Sure. He wanted to star in the movie.
Yeah, well, for sure. And it's like, oh no, and like, oh, and a young Al Pacino, fresh off like, The Godfather's playing you. Okay, I'm in. But like, how can you say no to that?
They brought him to like Lewisburg, which is like one of the most violent prisons in the country. And so like once he got in there and was kind of walking around being all cocky, like they're making a movie about me, like they literally tried to stab him.
Okay, and that's interesting. We're not talking about the documentary though. We're talking about Dog Day Afternoon. So we can get back to the movie at some point.
Just to bring back to Dog Day Afternoon, he got he got it to show the inmates in prison Dog Day Afternoon as part of his deal.
I wonder how the Attica chant went there.
Yeah.
Hey, that's probably why they didn't want it to be shown.
right, exactly. Good ideas. Yeah.
Attica. Ooh, no.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it's like, so my point in bringing up not just the documentary, but like my point in bringing up the real life story.
Oh, it's interesting.
Is that it's kind of this like. In Dog Day Afternoon, right? Like they see themselves as these characters on TV, or they'd like to, take that and make that their big moment, which of course everybody does, like in real life. But like there's a moment where like the mouth goes back in, and she's like, "I'm going back in there," and she's talking to the cameras, and she clearly loves it, and he clearly loves it. Like he realizes he has a whole back and forth with the camera, people out there and everything. And it's kind of fascinating that it's like life imitates art, imitates life, imitates art. And I think that Sidney Lumet 1 year later with Network would get.
Absolutely,
like so deep into that state of like that psyche, like he's clearly thinking about those issues, ahead of time. And obviously, it's Patty Chayefsky that wrote Network. It's not Lumet, but like, because he actually co-wrote the script to this one, I think. But like, it's kind of fascinating. He's clearly thinking about that media moment and those issues between all of us.
And it resonates so well that it 40 years later, 45 years later, whatever, it still works, and it still is like, oh wow, this is prescient, right? Prescient's the correct term for that. And there's even things like what's the line he says? Man that kills me, I hope he does it because he hates my guts, not because it's his job.
Yeah,
it's like, ooh. Man, like that's like a real just like stab right into the heart of like the whole Back to the Blue argument right there. It was like, fuck.
Well,
especially
like,
look at
FBI, right? Like not just like because the street cops are these kind of bigoted, weird, fucking like kind of depraved, like almost like criminals themselves, right? Like
and where blue, I meant Back to Blue as and law enforcement, not specifically New York City, but
there's the two, but you get the two. Their roles are weirdly reversed in this movie, but like you get like the street cop that's like just trying to like it would be a big deal if he was the one that ended this hostage situation. It's probably not a big deal if the FBI guy does, right? Like
it's his job,
yeah. So there's these two levels of law enforcement that you get there, and it's kind of fascinating that like the FBI, I think level of it is like the guy that like he doesn't get like he has no opinion on he's like, oh, there's a crime, and if I can shoot the person and end the hostage situation, I will. But like it's different, I think, than the guy that actually seems to feel deeply every single slight he gets from both Sonny and the FBI and everything else. And Kermit when he tries to take his legs,
and then later on Kermit the Frog, right? Yeah, but there's a lot of great lines that they're so like matter of fact, like the whole like the kiss me man line is kind of amazing too, because can you imagine also just like living in that era and not having any kind of representation and like seeing like like, oh damn, all right, this is real. And I'm even talking about like I think Cruisin's a very flawed movie. It's very much of its times. I think it's a good movie, but I think it's like it has some not for me to call them like bad portrayals, but it has some very cliched portrayals here and there for a subculture that at the time was very much demonized in every aspect of media. But just again, the low keyness of it, right? The fact that it doesn't start off with being like, oh, this guy is an activist and he does all this stuff and he's on the welcoming committee, and which means he gets first pick of the litter, which is hilarious, by the way. I mean, that's great. And
well, he gets the the yuck just came into town and I realized I'm gay for the first time.
Right, exactly. They gets them while they're excited. I mean,
but also they kind of subtly reference all this stuff with the fact that the marriage between him and
it's implied, and when it's told, it's in favor of the greater story, which is what makes it such a great movie, because it's not exposition drops, is what I'm saying.
It's also something that was highly controversial within the gay community, right? Like, because at this time they're like, hey, maybe our goal should be just you can have sex with another man and the cops can't come and just beat the shit out of you. Maybe that should be the goal. Maybe not. Gay marriage is something that came along later, and this moment was kind of defying that convention, and it was a big deal. So they do talk about that on TV.
Right. Yeah, well, and it's all like in the zeitgeist around this time too, and and again, there wasn't any consensus about any of it.
Yeah. So I got more behind the snes. I got some more behind the scenes with
more Mookie.
More Mookie Mugachi over here.
He goes in there and he's like, "Hi, I'm Mook," and they're like, "Mook? What's a Mook?
What's a Mook?" Mookie Mugachi. Amazing. I mean, what a name.
We're in phone communication, waiting on you. You get into position, pussy.
A banner headline story that hot day in August, actually watched by millions on television. Bizarre events are authentically detailed in this screenplay about a bold attempt by a pair of totally ineffectual amateurs.
Randy's speaking. All right, Mal, here's your toilet.
It's for you.
What?
Telephone call. For you.
John Cazale, who played Pacino's brother in The Godfather, is the other bank robber.
Yeah. Who's this?
They worked for 7 weeks, both day and night, finishing 3 weeks ahead of schedule. It is his relationship with people like cinematographer Victor Kemper and the rest of the crew that enables Lumet to do this and frees him to concentrate on his actors.
There's such a connection between Al and myself that at the end of the take he looks over and he knows whether we're going to go with another one or I'll know whether he wants another one. Because you develop a terrific shorthand, you find an immediate kind of response. The communication is so intuitive. He feels totally secure in the most personal exposure with me, and I feel the same with him. And that's something that time and working together, only that can take care of it. Nothing else can give you that. The movie had to be done not even in a realistic style, but a naturalistic one. Your attention had to be on that literally every frame. The film shows it in the sense that it's incredibly detailed, despite a totally improvisational feel about it.
You the driver?
Yeah.
I want to check it out.
At no moment does it ever bridge into what, in my opinion, is exploitive.
These seats come out?
No, mold it.
You the man, I was watching. I saw you, man. You should see yourself. You wouldn't believe it.
I believe it.
Then there was the question of how to keep it humanized, keep it from being freak time, and still without fudging the issue. There's no point in doing a movie about a guy who holds up a bank and holds 9 people hostage for 13 hours and say, well, he's just like you and me. He's not like you and me. So how to find the human dilemmas in terms that we can understand.
China marker time!
But even Sidney Lumet's control on the location can be limited, especially when it comes to the elements.
Temperature's dropping, Bert. Temperature's dropping. Do what you can, brother. Okay, stop it! Sidney wants it to be 50 degrees and no wind. Now get on it! So on and so forth, and forward you come. and we carry him forward, right? He starts over to there. Okay, people, let's settle down. Here we go. Take your place. Hold the car, comes quiet. Comes all. They're all attention here. Now this row of police should be back further. Where I placed you yesterday. Back to the second row of cars, fellas. Nobody's up this close.
I love it. And another thing I love in referencing what it is in 12 Angry Men, you really get a sense of the claustrophobia, especially when the lights go out. Like, you really get a sense of, like, oh, yeah, it's hot as hell. Everyone's tired and, like, angry.
Yeah, there's definitely similarities to something like 12 Angry Men, in the sense that, you know, the dynamics between these characters kind of trapped in a room. Of course, you know, he gets to go out at times and meet other characters, and there's like a dynamic there with like almost like a Shakespearean crowd in some ways. You know what I mean? Like
like the Greek chorus almost of the crowd. Yeah, totally.
But like, and it's kind of also like an audience substitute, I guess. But like within the rooms, right? Like, there's these characters that are kind of just stuck in the situation, and you know, knowing that he's the director that, you know, directed 12 Angry Men, you can kind of see like a resonance between that and the story within this room.
I mean, and like, again, I'm a fan of action. Obviously, like it's not like I am anti-action. Like, but it's amazing how much is done with very little action in the movements and the blocking. Like it's all told by there we go. I was gonna say, by just like you see people's faces and their reactions to things. You know, like, and
I'm messing around with the screens on here because I wanted to see if I get the one that's that does the these ones are kind of too rectangular, I feel like.
Yeah. Like I like the what I'm doing for Protonic is use the skinnier ones, but
yeah.
But it's something that, again, one of the reasons why you know, because Cazale is like so great, like he brings this deep sadness to the role, and like, you know, why it's one of the great Pacino roles too, because it's like it's just like he's so kind of like, and he's not unhinged, but he's definitely forceful. Like, it's a guy who's very confident with what it is that what he's doing, even though you maybe don't have the full idea of what it is he's doing at first. To the point that, like, they're using their real names and stuff in the beginning. You're like, I was like, oh, you're doing all the things that we, as the modern movie watcher, know you don't do any of these things during a heist.
Yeah, because they're like real amateur about it.
Yeah.
And, no, but there's also kind of the fascinating thing that you know, the whole Sal Natural, which is kind of, it's such a fun name. But like, you know, the Sal character has been to prison before, and if he was played by like a 19-year-old, as it, like, you know, as it was written already in the script, that wouldn't necessarily be as believable as John Cazale. Where he's like, I'm gonna kill myself, you know, before I go back to prison. Like, I'm not gonna let myself go back. And it's like, oh, like, this is a man that's kind of probably, he's like a felon. He spent his life, you know, behind bars, and like now he's doing this.
And you see that sadness painted on his face, right? You see that sort of just like resting sadness, like, and like that guy was so good at doing that. I mean, even like in like stuff like something like The Deer Hunter, where it's just like, you're like, oh, like that guy was haunted for whatever reason.
Well, even in you know, The Godfather. And
sure,
The Godfather too, which is not a movie known necessarily for emotional resonance, but like there's something just so there's something so sad and like submissive about you know, like the Fredo character, where he's you know, like when he lets fucking Tom Green or whatever like beat him around, and he's like, you know, he's like, no, it's okay, he does it to everyone. He just straightened me out. Like, there's this submissiveness to that character, and it's in this movie too. But you also get like the dynamic between him and Al Pacino, where he's just another problem that Al Pacino's character sees that he has to solve over and over again. Like, you know, like he's like, he's not helping him. He's kind of holding down the the whole robbery situation. And it's like,
I mean, he's basically used as like a, you know, a threatening tulpa, which ultimately kind of colors the end of the movie somewhat. But then by the same token, as the actual person, well, and like from the beginning, right? It was not supposed to be a 2-person job even. But like, what other heist movie can you think of where someone's like, I'm out, I'm bailing, let me out of here. Oh, okay, cool.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing in modern heist movies, if someone did that, you'd have to, you know, write it to the script. You know what? Let's just fucking like blow that guy's brains out.
That guy would get killed or be immediately captured or something. In this case, you're just like, nope, just gone, just out the door.
Which in the real story, he actually get out of there and then later arrested after, you know, after everybody else was.
He got arrested too.
Eventually, yes.
And you know, he's actually the one that they kind of, I think, had to go to for a lot of the information about, you know, to make this movie. I mean, like he was kind of still
the real
at
guy
large, and like you know, to get the background on what happened during this, because you know, Little John Basso, as he called himself, was already fucking in prison by that point. By the time they're making this movie, and then already out of prison the year that this movie came out, which is kind of crazy.
Some real Mookie Mugachi stuff right there, if you ask me.
He only ended up getting 5 years, which you know, you think for not the fact that anything he did, because he didn't actually, you know, hurt anybody throughout this, but like you think for the spectacle, I guess, that he created, and for the level of media attention, he originally got 20 years, and then at the end of the 20 years, they're like, listen, you were so whacked out on like meds and stuff when you were in the fucking thing. We're gonna parole you on the first, you know, whatever, and let you go back into the world. So the notoriety, I guess, probably both hurt and helped in the end.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and so did his prison boyfriend, who was in there for like extortion and kidnapping and some other violent things, who's also like a prison lawyer.
Yeah. He seems to have a knack for finding like the right people to, you know, magically fall in love with.
Yeah, because like the thing is like nobody would mess with this guy because he was actually, you know, he was a tough guy. He was known for like, you know, beating people up and cutting people.
He was also black. He's also black and Irish, and had this, like these blue Irish eyes, and then like this you know, like he looked black until you looked into his eyes, and the eyes were like this bright blue, like you know, like Irishness to it. He's an interesting looking guy.
Yeah, no, and you know, he's also big. I mean, like the guy's really tall.
But like not to talk about the documentary again. It's just it's kind of fascinating. Well, no, but it's like the whole life imitates art thing playing out again, right?
Yeah,
The notoriety that this guy gets from, you know, this televised hostage situation. I mean, pretty much like is all that it is, and like, you know, the notoriety that he gets from this televised hostage situation ends up not just defining the rest of his life, but, you know, and turning him into like this minor celebrity that's like, oh, you're the Dog Day guy, because this movie got made, but like also kind of helping him, you know, get rehabilitated in a way that I think if he was just some guy that nobody paid attention to the hostage situation, and, you know, it wasn't like a big thing that turned into a movie event, I feel like he probably would have just been buried in jail for the rest of his, you know, prison for the rest of his existence. Like,
or if he got out, he probably would have gone back in for doing something violent.
Right. I mean, and like, imagine, like, because isn't the what was that feature was called like The Boys in the Bank or something? Isn't called Dog Days Afternoon, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah. That, I mean, what if they had like called it that instead? You know, like it's like his whole identity would have been. I'm the boy.
I'm Johnny Boy.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
It's
really
like
dumb
Backstreet Back's about me.
Yeah, precisely.
Stay golden, pony boy.
Right. I mean, I think it does a rare thing too that it gets you to like flat out root for the protagonist. I was going to mention Phil Lynott actually when you said the Black Irish, Thin Lizzy, of course. True heads will know. That. What was I going to say? Oh, that you get like the sweatiness of it, right? Especially after the lights go out and like there's no AC and they're just sitting there just sweating it out, and it's like and you're like, oh yeah, I could get, you know, where you're trying to like thread the stone needle here.
And I mean, the 70s was a very sweaty decade.
It was a sweaty decade, yeah.
Just you know, nice that they captured on film, because like movies about the 70s never get as sweaty as the 70s.
Yeah, everyone's very put together and whatnot. It's like, I don't know, this would have been like, you could smell this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could like.
Well, and that's the whole kind of good cop, bad cop thing. You know, the one cop that is the street cop, you know, just in the NYPD or whatever. That's just kind of some, you know, that wants to solve the hostage situation and get the credit for it, pretty much. Like, he's kind of like the good cop. He's like, oh, you know, I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to get you things. And he's completely lost control of the situation. And finally, you know, at that point where it turns to night and the FBI has to, like, you know, take control of it. The FBI's techniques are way more like, we're going to make it miserable in here. We're going to, you know, cut the power, cut the we're not going to make sure that we're going to make sure that there isn't any air conditioning in here. Everybody's just sweaty and gross. We're going to make it hell to be in here, which was not the case for the first few hours, because this cop's just like, if we make it pleasant enough to be in there, maybe I can salvage my career here.
Wow. So the actual Sal was 18. Sal Natural.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't have liked it as much if it was 18. That would have changed the power dynamic.
Yeah, very, very few 18-year-olds could have pulled off what John Cazale or Cazale did in this film. Not everybody can jump out at like a young age and just own the screen like that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is a crazy film. Like, this is there's a lot to it, and I remember there being a lot to it, and there was still a lot to it because it's the same movie as it was before. I'm just different.
I think deeper thoughts now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I do think about different stuff.
Although every time I watch it, the woman who yells, "My ears are not toilets." That always reminds me of my mom.
That's right. Wardrobe in this, since I guess I'll just step in for Christina because she's not here. Wardrobe in this is killer. This is whoever was handling that did a fantastic job for the set decoration. And again, it's also in the fact that not everybody is dressed to look the coolest that they've ever dressed, but they look like they're dressed appropriately for what it is they're doing, and that's such a fine line.
And there's the famous there's the famous pictures of him out there in like the Attica kind of moments, but like the actual guy, there's the most famous pictures of him are like standing outside of the bank in that same way.
Yeah, he's got like the open throated shirt, because it's hot as hell. Okay, great, no problem. Ain't no thing.
So this is like this is his famous picture that they took.
Yeah. It literally looks like it could be from the movie. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I have a clip of the actual hostages that are talking about the experience of getting like it wasn't from that documentary. It was from a different thing. But there's like they interviewed the actual hostages about what it's like. Definitely not as happy with them at the end of it as the actual as the hostages in this movie though.
Right. All right, let's hear it.
Well, I think some of it too was Stockholm syndrome in this movie.
I just want to know what the mouth is up to on a daily basis. That's all I want to know.
Yes.
Like they show in the film.
It was just before closing time. And this fella, whom I later found out his name was John, would-be hold-up man, I thought he was a very nice man. He was talking about if I had any gold coins or silver coins, and I thought he might be a coin collector,
Because he came up?
In a sense, he was.
And I thought he was very nice because the lady came up behind him, and he let her go ahead of him. And I says, oh, that's a gentleman. I thought he was very nice. And so after that, it was 3:00. So he walked away from the window, and I closed up my window.
I like that they're using that dog day afternoon.
And all of a sudden, I just hear this violent, horrible language, vile. And I looked up, and there I see a rifle or a shotgun aimed at me. And he was yelling, "This is a holdup,"
They said this was a robbery, which was a shock to everybody. Never having been in one before. But he said, "This is a robbery. Don't move. We have guns on you." And they did. Both had rifles. What I would call a rifle anyway.
That's Barrett. He's passed on. And this is Maureen and Shirley. And here's myself and Dolores. Yeah. That's maybe behind my cage. It seemed that the manager was talking with someone. So Mr. Barrett says, don't transfer that person in, transfer so-and-so. And this other person happened to be a teller that was fired from stealing. So right away, the person in the personnel department realized there was something wrong. And he says, is there something wrong there? And he said, yes. Mr. Barrett said, yes. So he hung up. So that was how the police were informed right away.
We were in the robbery squad that the office was in Coney Island. And we were told by the lieutenant that he had gotten a phone call from an executive from the bank in Manhattan that he was speaking to the manager on Avenue P in East 3rd Street, and it was very funny on the phone. So he wanted us to go over to East 3rd and Avenue P, and we came from Coney Island, and there was 2 cars of detectives, and we parked over there across the street, and on the other side was a police car, radio car.
What happened?
When we got to the scene, we could see that basically that the shades and everything were drawn on the bank. There was no people coming out. There was no guard in the door. So we knew something was going on.
Yeah, definitely the portrayals are far more cinematic than the actual people. But
yeah, but I also like that they're all theater actors that like Al Pacino is kind of new from the park.
Yeah.
Like
that's great.
But they did keep good old toilet ears.
Good old toilet ears.
Good old toilet ears.
People are talking about toilet ears more and more.
Yeah, she was actually offered the part of the Godfather and Godfather and.
I'm gonna make them with toilet ears they can't refuse.
I think Do we want to hit the Letterboxd one-liners? I know we're been cooking along on it. If you have any more clips that you wanted to do, but
I think if you want to
time.
do one more, clip, I have the one more behind the scenes one. Let's
do one more. Let's do one more, and then
more mook. More Mookie.
Mookie Mugachi.
Oh, Mookie Mugachi over here. Look at this guy.
All right, very quiet down there. Now, please. Stay on it. All right, roll it. Hey, that's on action.
Every setup in the film has been carefully rehearsed, every step. In a tense scene like this, as the hostages move toward a limousine that will take them to the airport in an escape jet. It's the kind of thing this director does so well.
Just keep holding here. Hold it. All right, break it on 3, okay? Not yet, don't break it. 1, 2, 3, go. We did it. We did it.
We were there for a long time. We had 7 nights of night shooting, during which you're disturbing people enormously. You've got lights on their fire escapes and on their roofs, and you're making noise all night. And they were marvelous. We didn't suddenly arrive, wake somebody up at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, can we put a lamp out here? Everything of that had been worked out in advance, so we could tell people precisely when we would be there, how much we disturbed them, and so on. We couldn't have gone more smoothly.
Leaving now. Want no trouble en route.
This is how it happened that night in 1972. And this is the atmosphere that Lumet recreates. If a writer had thought up this story, it would be dismissed as too weird, too unbelievable. But it did happen in Brooklyn. It did capture the curiosity of the entire country. Now, in Dog Day Afternoon, through the imagination and efforts of a group of filmmakers, those dramatic events are being relived.
And that comes back to, like, and we showed a little bit of the scene earlier, but like when the driver guy is like, oh man, you're the guy. You should see yourself. You never believe it. He's basically like, yeah, I'd believe it. But like it gets a good idea of the spectacle, right? Like it gets over in a single, like, kind of like funny-ish interaction. that gets across that entire idea.
Well, it's also interesting when he realizes that guy's also a cop. Like,
yeah,
and like they snuck because he's like, shoot for the white meat, and they're like, yeah, that guy's he's one of the undercovers that's like,
yeah, just like the guy with like what was like the red cardigan or something, where it's like okay, that guy is like trying way too hard to like blend in, and he doesn't blend in at all. And it's like he's like the first one that like breaks cover for like no reason, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, this guy, he thought he was looking real sly in that like, red cardigan or whatever he had going on.
Yeah,
real subtle boy. Yeah.
Well, and the cops intermingle with that crowd, and like you can tell the difference, between the cops that are like standing on the cars, and then the crowd kind of standing behind them throughout most of it. That's like, yeah.
Well, it's like, yeah, they're alert in a way that like this it belies the entire thing of what they're doing, just by how they react and everything, and how they're just very quick too. Which is funny because one of the first things I said is like, well, modern heist movie, it's like everything would be about the snipers and like taking them out immediately. Especially if you had like Michael Bay doing it or something.
I mean, fortunately, they did not do that with JCVD, which is a great parody of this movie.
Right.
But they did get the main robber who they actually made to look like John Cazale in this film.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, but they also made him like the bad guy. Like, he absolutely was the villain of the piece. But the other Roberts are just like, oh my God, we got Jean-Claude Van Damme in here.
Well, they also do it in speaking of Michael Bay's Ambulance, which I found to be deeply entertaining, hilarious. But it's basically Grand Theft Auto on 5 stars. Yes. The movie. Like, and I mean that actually as a compliment in this case. Yes. Also, Michael Bay found out that drones are cool. That's the other thing I would say about that film.
Yes.
Because Gaffett's drone shots.
Oh my God, and they're so well used. Too.
It's great. I mean, it's completely absurd. And was it Jake Gyllenhaal is just like, apparently the direction was, I want you to be as crazy as you possibly can be, literally all the time. And there you go.
Yeah, dial it up to 11 and just go.
Yeah, just leave it there. Just break the knob off. But it's like contrast that, which again I love it, and it's just like over the top Michael Bay-ness and absurdity with like such a slow burner of a heist film as this, where you just, again, even when you see like the cops like overstepping and like the crowd's like boo boo and like gets on their side and stuff, like it all is happening very naturalistically, and that also just shows like the difference in eras between how that kind of interaction is handled. And
they also could never make a movie.
The militarization.
Where, at least one of the hostages didn't get taken out today. I feel like.
Well, good point. Yeah, because I absolutely, I feel like in some way, shape, or form, whether it be through accident or whatever, somebody would have died. Like instead of the security guard, like they kind of like start roughing him up, they would have just killed him. Like, and like that would have been like, oh, you the only hostage that died was from the police and whatever, and that'd be a big thing. But
he's the one black guy. They're like, oh, really? You killed the one?
yeah. What a shocking development. The black guy got it, huh? Yeah, but it's I feel that one of the reasons that it's a fantastic film is because it doesn't get more down in that and make you think about the logistical scenarios for stuff like that, if that makes sense. It's a grounding of the narrative structure that like this is happening, but it's not like the entire thing. And I say that as I don't know why like I like Ambulance when I can't stand most of Michael Bay's movies. But like I do. I mean, maybe because it's more cartoonish, but like I feel like there's always like some like, hey, everybody is in the military great scene where it's like, man, I know you like the military. I don't need to see it like all the time. All right. Like here they come. Like I think it's even in that Fakakta Transformers movie, right? Like with the military come in and like are cool for a while.
The Rock, like they kill off the Michael Biehn character with like the most patriotic speech that ever patriotic is.
Right, yeah, and it's just like I don't know. There's something I find so
ruins the movie.
Yeah, I only like Michael Bay when he's in Goblin mode, apparently. Which I'm like keep doing that.
Which most of the Rock is, to be fair, but then it has that one moment.
Shall we get into Letterboxd one-liners?
Yeah.
For Dog Day Afternoon? All right. So, of course, Letterboxd is... I feel like we don't do many Power Trio episodes.
Yeah, we really haven't in a long... We haven't
since like a while.
Psycho or, I guess, or...
Yeah, I mean, I guess we've done a couple, but I feel like we don't do that many of them. Anyways, this is an observation, just an observation. Letterboxd, of course,
it's a gay power trio.
It's a power.
And I guess I'm the bottom.
Well,
for the other podcast leaders, I'm the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, exactly. For the audio listeners, are like, "What? Why is that funny? Why are they laughing?" Letterboxd, of course, is a social media site for film lovers to talk with and to each other about the films that they love, maybe the films they didn't love, the films that they were weirdly thirsty for the main character and the young version of the main character, specifically in this film. And of course, all of this is a place where film lovers get to talk with and to each other about the films that they love, right? And they get to not just have the Siskel's and Eberts of the worlds. Everybody gets to have their say. Bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets their time. And it's a very populist affair that way. This is best expressed succinctly. Keep it succinct. And then we get to read them on air, and we comment and goof on them and so. And these are the Letterboxd one-liners for Dog Day Afternoon. Oh, sure. When Al Pacino commits a crime to make his trans lover happy, he's a beloved hero admired by the public. But when I do it, I'm banned from the anime store for shoplifting Final Fantasy plushies.
It happens.
I would like to know more about this crime.
Or what's the one that there's like this plushy shark that a lot of trans people have for some reason? It's like a trend online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I don't know about that.
No, I do know what you're talking about. But go on.
Sidney Lumet was in the booth after every take, demanding enough buckets of fake sweat to fill a small river, and I think that's nice.
I mean, they do it with blood. Why not?
Yeah. It's a sweaty movie.
Fake or not? It's just
turn off the air conditioning.
Would you say it was method sweating, Andy?
It could be. I mean, it's Al Pacino, so very well could be. It's like, let's do it method.
Exactly.
I'm really sweating here.
The women here really capture the art of not giving a single fuck.
Except about being on TV. And the fucking husband calls Carol Kane's character and is like, "Hey, what do we have for dinner?" And it's like, you can't figure that out for one night. Your wife is
what a turd. Like, I'm being held hostage here.
When are you coming? And she even asked, like, "Hey, he wants to know when you're coming home. When are you doing dinner?"
Yeah, what a POS. If Al Pacino held me hostage, escaping would be the last thing on my mind.
Well, I mean, it was none of them tried to escape. They all kind of just were like playing cards and hanging out by the end of it.
All right, whatever. Yeah, we'll just chill out. It's fine.
It's probably better than being a bank teller.
Yeah, I'm sure once they got to go to the bathroom, they were all fine.
Here's how Al Pacino can still win Best Actor for Dog Day Afternoon.
Dog Day Afternoon. That's like the story about him and being on like a shitload of Klonopin at the Oscars, and like have you ever heard that story?
No. What is this?
He was really, really nervous about going to the Oscars like the first time or something, and he just kept popping pills because it was like when his addiction was really bad, but they were like anxiety pills and like Vicodin or something. Okay. And he was just sitting there, and he's asking like, when does this thing go? Because he assumed it was like an hour long or something because of what they show on TV. And right. Like, it's like 4 hours. So he was sitting there. He was sitting there and like praying that they didn't ask him to go up and accept an award because he didn't need to walk.
But by the way, do you know who actually did win that year?
Who?
Jack Nicholson, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Because that was the same year as this. Also same year as Barry Lyndon, Nashville, and Jaws. Crazy, right?
That was a stacked year.
It was a stacked ass year. And also, I feel like there was another movie that we like too that got totally snubbed, which obviously would never happen. But 3 Days with the Condor.
Oh, yes.
Anyway. So it's like Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon.
I feel like it's interesting that like there's some subjects like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that you can get away with giving an award to at this point, and then other ones like this, like I couldn't see that them being like
it's a little bit, it was a little bit transgressive for the time, I suppose. Sure, yeah. Have you ever seen a bank robbery that you wish you were invited to?
They really do feel like they're having a blast by the end of it there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I if I was in a bank robbery, this is the one I'd want to be in.
If I was in a bank robbery though, and there was like, if I was a cop in a bank robbery, worst one to be in.
Yeah,
you're on the outside, and they're like,
oh yeah, the crowd hates you just from the jump. Yeah.
Boo, Attica!
They should have called this Dog Day Afternoon and Night. They don't account for the night part.
the last third of it, right? Like you kind of watch the sun go down, and it's like, it's like, oh well, because I was paying attention to watching it like multiple times this week, and I finally like realized like the last pretty much third of it is like the sun goes down and it gets real eerie. Like when they cut out the electricity and stuff, and it's like the night part seems way less fun than the afternoon part.
Definitely, yeah. they didn't account for it in the title.
Yeah.
Either. Just gay little Al Pacino being his gay little self and doing his gay little crimes.
Yeah, this might be the first Be Gay Do Crime movie.
I think so. I think so, and there's a lot of there were a lot of reviews that basically just were that. Which so of course I'm like I'm gonna go for the one that goes a little harder, so to speak.
The actual guy I think was even like a little bit smaller than Al Pacino, which is because Al Pacino
That's
is
awesome.
is being his gay little self in this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but like the actual guy is like tiny.
Yeah, and he's also really fat now too, which is funny.
How height? Oh my god, he's like 5'6" or something, right? Like he's like him and like Dustin Hoffman are both like around the same height. He's not a tall dude. Like,
I feel like Tom Cruise size.
5'6".
Yeah, it's being his gay little self, you know. Being held hostage by Al Pacino looks fun as fuck. They got a pizza party.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of hostage that you get when you ask for a raise at work. They're like, we'll give you a hostage situation and a pizza party.
Best I can do is a hostage situation and a pizza party. Yeah. Thirst watch for a tag. That's good. That's a good tag. I'm in favor of that one. Number one rule of bank robbery: have fun and be yourself.
Yes, yeah, and the reason that Sal got captured in the end is he wasn't comfortable with himself, right?
Exactly.
Like he was real worried about them presenting him as gay. Just be yourself, you know?
Yes, be yourself, man. It doesn't matter.
You don't know where Wyoming is. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Dog Day Afternoon. Please, not only remember Attica, but follow the show, Move Next Extravaganza. That's your host, R.I.P. John Cazale, Forrest Miller over there. He would appreciate greatly if you followed him. He logs all the stuff, all the episodes, all the movies that we do here.
I logged Serpico, the pawnbroker, and this like as watch throughs that I did this week,
and the dog.
Yeah, and the dog.
The dog. Yeah, the dog. Not the bounty hunter. That's a different.
The dog.
I, of course, Wyoming is not a country, but I am Conan Neutron. I'm all over that biz. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge. I'm back on track with that. Also watching all the highbrow, middlebrow stuff, Populous Fare as well. And I am on there actively once more since I'm not running around Caterwall currently. Jay Underworld would not only rob a bank for his wife, he would probably log it on Letterboxd as well. He's watching all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to. Or maybe so you can. I don't know. It's not for me to judge. But he's doing it. And
Andy's bank robbery for his wife stars Steven Seagal. That's not who I would cast for.
It's a surprise cameo. Who knew? It was not even on top
sat down
billing.
through the entire robbery. It was weird.
Right? Exactly.
They're like, no, they're asking.
I'm gonna rob you from this chair. And there's nothing you can do to stop me.
They're asking Andy. They're asking Andy what he wants more than anything. They're like, can we get you anything? And he's like, bring me Steven Seagal.
And then they bring in the chair, but it's like one of those like emperor chairs with like where they have the people carrying it.
And he brings his guitar with him.
I think he has his hype man talk about the number one blues man in the country, Steven Seagal. Man,
judo master.
Second, that came up last night when I tracked that episode of 1001 Album Complaints. Weirdly, Steven Seagal came up on that too. Strangely, that's not something I expect to talk about twice on a podcast in a week. But any which way you slice it or kick it, if you will. Jay Interworld, take us away with the plugs, would you?
All right. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, please do those YouTube things like comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And the big ask is to watch the video to the end because that allows other movie fans to find our content. And you get a great Conan Neutron song, which secretly I play Shaker Egg during every single time.
I think I heard it this time.
I'm on mute.
Okay, this is implied then. All right.
Yeah, it's implied. Just imagine Shaker Egg. That's me.
Letterhack gave me props for it during the after party last time. So that was nice. Thank you, Letterhack.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely fun. It was just weird.
In lieu of payment, I take props. So thank you.
Yeah, weird having on a fellow artist that I enjoy and respect. Compliment me too. So that was a very nice moment for both of us.
Yeah, that's how you get invited back in the show. Just butter everybody up.
Yes, yes. So next week we're gonna have Letterhack back on.
Right, exactly. Come on next week, Letterhack. Coming up every week, actually.
This is the new Christina.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're on social media, find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's our social medias of choice for the channel, and keep up with us there.
We haven't gotten a Blue Sky code yet. So
they're keeping it away from you.
Come on! I just want that code, man.
Exactly.
But we do have a Patreon. That is a great way to help out the show. Is support us on Patreon. Also, I forgot to mention another great way to help out the show. If you're watching us on Twitch, you can, if you subscribe, that's fantastic. But if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free. That helps us out and doesn't cost you a penny. So please consider doing that.
Yes.
And of course, with the Patreon, as I was mentioning that before, the Patreon, you can have access to our after party, so you can see Letterhack give us all those
after party
forever. You can hear me tell Tori about accidentally wandering into an adult bookstore to pick up a copy of Dune by accident last week. So
yes. Yeah, so there are great moments to see, and you can dig into those. Christina could not join us, so I'm going to plug her real quickly. She does have a great Twitch channel, so when she is on next, please check her out. And if you can, support her Ko-fi. That's kofi.com/cosmopolitics.
Yeah, she's pretty much universal branding and cosmopolitics now for everything, so it's good.
Yeah, I was reaching for it, and my brain was going, Christina, and it's like, no, brain, shut up.
It hasn't been that for a while, yeah.
No, and I'm just like, that's why I was kind of stuttering there, going like, no, I'm starting this off correctly. My brain's like, no.
You actually did fine, but I appreciate the Beau is Afraid level breakdown of how you thought you might fail it.
Correct. Just signal landing people. That's what's important.
But what if I did fuck it up? It'd probably sound a little something like this.
Speaking of not fucking things up, there's a great show called Protonic Reversal.
Yes, it is my background. There is a great show called Protonic Reversal. I just had Tim Jones of Cheer Accident on last week, and I'm having another Tim on tomorrow, which is Tim Green of the fucking Champs and Nation of Ulysses. And he's been on before, but that was like 300 episodes or something ago. It's been a long time. We're going to talk about the fucking Champs reissue of 3, I think. 3 is the one that they reissued. I figured it out before I have them on. But that's been a long time coming because I know it's been out of print for forever. And
you got 24 hours. You're good.
Right, yeah. And that's the one for fans of that band. It was before they went by the fucking Champs, but they couldn't call themselves the Champs anymore because that band that did Tequila was called the Champs. So they just briefly called their band C4AM95, like Champs. Yeah, that didn't work so well, so they changed it after that. But yeah, it's a great record. If you're a fan of that kind of stuff, it should be a good time. Tim's awesome. He runs a great studio called Louder Studios that's recorded a bunch of fantastic bands as well.
Nice. And of course, if you want to get more music like the theme song,
you can also, by the way, there's also a Patreon for that too.
yes.
So Patreon.com/PatronConversal, $1 a month for early access to episodes like that, or say John Wright from No Means No, which seems to be making the rounds now that now that's been out for a little bit. So there you go.
Well, people are finally catching that no means no. You know what I mean? Before that, they weren't.
Before they were unclear, yeah. they were ahead of the game on that. I mean, that band formed in like 82 or something, 1982. So
we stand consent kings. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, if you want some Conan Neutron music, go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com and get Dangerous Nomenclature or perhaps something older.
Yeah. There's you can even get the whole Megillah for like one big digital price. We just played Chicago. That was a great show. That was really good. We have a show with Poster Children next month, which I think is either the week of or the week before Rick from Poster Children comes on this show. And we have a quick little jaunt that's like Columbus and Cincinnati, Ohio, and Louisville, Kentucky in late July. I have 3 things that I still can't announce yet, but there's a bunch of stuff coming. If you look at the Bandcamp or go on Songkick, you can get free updates for whenever we're coming near you. I can tell you this. People that are on the West Coast are going to be stoked. People on the East Coast may be less stoked.
Well, what are we not on the East Coast if not, a little less stoked?
A little less stoked. Gotta say.
After those first wildfires.
After wildfires appeared for the first time on the East Coast, yeah.
No, but like those texts I had back and forth with you where it was like, people act like things that happen on the East Coast are happening for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's like, because for me they are. I've never had
it's funny, but not funny.
It's always because like the East Coast is they thinks it's the center of the world because it is the center of news media.
Yeah. Well, just like people think that people outside New York City give a single fuck about New York City mayoral race. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a fuck about it.
Well, in Tel Aviv,
and they want you to shut up about it, huh?
In Tel Aviv, they might.
Hey, everybody!
Matters to them quite a bit.
Go.
They're talking about the New York City mayoral race in Jerusalem right now.
Exactly. It's probably more relevant to Jerusalem than it is Wisconsin. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, moving on. Get away from that subject entirely.
I think that's it for the plugs because I can't think of anything to plug for myself other than I have something really exciting to announce soon, but I can't just yet because I literally got the contract today.
So great. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to announce that. But big things are coming, people.
Well, one thing we should probably plug. Our good one-time friend Sam Cedar narrated Michael Brooks' audiobook, and that just came out.
That's awesome.
Against the
Very
web.
cool.
So they finally just released that. I think yesterday. People are excited about that. I think it's only like a 2.5-hour audiobook because it's only an 80-page book, but Against the Web is now a Sam Cedar read title.
That's very cool. I was gonna say we're broadcasting on Wednesday instead of Tuesday too because I was on an episode of a show I like called 1001 Album Complaints, and that's coming out in a couple weeks. So I'll
Which complaint were you?
Actually, we did Funhouse by the Stooges, and I expected to just be the only one defending it, but I basically won everybody over to my side. So, spoiler alert.
Debate king.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
Move over, Burgess.
So, why wouldn't it be? Why would
look. The reason why I like that show is those guys are like, I mean, like they are rockists, but like in a way that where it's not coming from punk rock at all. So sometimes their take on things is absolutely befuddling, and sometimes some episodes are just funny, like Red Hot Chili Peppers they did. But it's based off of this 1001 albums you have to hear before you die like list that it's like a book the guy did, and so each episode they do a different record from that. And so
that's smart. That's smart to do a multimedia experience that way.
Yeah. Like I said, I listened to the show, so it was nice to be on it, and even better that I won. Again, spoiler alert. There's no winners or losers, but I won.
So Conan, do you have some final thoughts to dive into right here?
I absolutely. So I think that Al Pacino's given a lot of fantastic performances over the years, but this Dog Day Afternoon, his performance in Dog Day Afternoon is up there with Godfather and Godfather 2. Like it's one of his absolute best, and it's before he settled into The Thing that we know and love him for, and like he definitely is doing in Heat, which I love, and like he's starting to do when you get into Glengarry Glen Ross, which I also love. But his performance here is fantastic. This is incredibly well directed. Nobody does claustrophobic drama like Lumet does. I mean, I can't say it's my favorite Lumet movie because he also did Network, which is basically one of my favorite movies of all time. But this is a fantastic 5-star movie, and one of the things I love best about it is the characters are very well rounded, and it's not predictable in any way, shape, or form, and it's very ahead of its time that way, and it's just a cool movie. And like I almost would say, I don't know if it's possible, but if anyone. Certainly no one watching this show, but if people were thinking about watching it, like I feel like the best experience is know as little about it as possible, because you'll be really surprised by oh wow, I didn't have that on my bingo card, and that's one of the reasons why we're including it in Big Gay June, which I can't believe is the title. Here we are.
Well, and I also feel like as we've kind of gone into like the age of, I guess, representation and wokeness, right? Like it gets harder and harder to just have stories like this that are well,
and there's something to be said, and I'm not the right person to say it, but there's something to be said for representation being more than just someone's sexuality or someone's identity. Like people can and should be well-rounded characters that have more going on than just that. And what I like about this movie is, for better or worse, whatever you think of the actual person, there's some very, very well-roundedness to it that unfolds in a very interesting cinematic manner. And that's what more can you ask for from for something like this?
Yeah. Andy, you have any final thoughts?
I did want to just mention one Al Pacino movie where he did act in after like his big like where he does his thing, but I would have to say Memento.
After the Scarface goes off in his head and
Insomnia. What was Al Pacino?
Oh, Insomnia is great.
Like
yeah,
last like movie where he really just acts.
He isn't doing the thing that everybody loves that he does. Like
and when he comes close, it's just because like mentally he's kind of breaking down.
Yeah, look, and I'm not saying I even dislike it. I'm just saying that if you only think of him as doing the thing, like that. And Robin Williams, by the way, great in that film also.
Yes,
as a dramatic role. That
phenomenal film. Which we should cover sometime. But
basically, to clarify, it's not that I'm saying that like he didn't ever like act after this. I'm just saying like this is one of my favorite roles. Like it's up there for me acting wise with The Godfather and Godfather 2 for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like Scarface is the moment that he kind of flipped. Like something in his brain, in his brain just went.
It's all of that thing.
right.
It's all cocaine decisions too.
He activated his goblin mode on that one. Yeah, for sure.
Never, but
it works for that. It works.
He never fully. But I'm just saying he probably never fully recovered from working with Oliver Stone.
Maybe.
But so next week on Tuesday we'll be back with we have Dan from the Internet coming on, and we're going to be talking about Moonlight. And I'm not sure what the fourth movie in our month is. We still have to figure that out with Christina.
It's a surprise to everybody. Our producer for the month is in absentia, so you'll know when we know, people.
Well, it's better than our producer for the month being dementia.